Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're moving past all the crypto noise. We're digging into how blockchain technology is really being used in supply chains and in healthcare. We've got a pretty detailed report guiding us.
Oh, and the mission really is to see how this foundational tech is changing things in these vital sectors, what it actually means for you.
Right, without getting lost in the tech jargon.
Yeah.
So maybe start with the basics. What are the key ideas?
Okay, sure. So the core principles, right? Decentralization, that's about moving control away from one single point, spreading it out.
Okay.
Then there's cryptographic security, fancy term, for using strong codes to protect data and prove who's who.
Makes sense.
Immutability, meaning once something's recorded, it's incredibly hard to change, like almost permanent.
Right.
And transparency, often the records can be viewed, which builds trust. Put it all together and it lowers the cost of trust. You don't need as many middlemen checking things.
Got it. Built-in trust. So let's tackle supply chains first. We all buy things, but tracking them from, the farm or factory to our house, it's usually black box.
Exactly. A black box full of potential hiccups, data stuck in different places, delays, counterfeiting even.
So how does blockchain help there?
Well, it creates this shared, unchangeable ledger. Think of it as one single version of the truth that everyone involved can see and rely on.
A single source of truth?
Precisely. And that makes tracking things in, real time much, much more feasible and trustworthy.
The report mentioned some really striking examples, like Walmart.
Oh, yeah, the Walmart Food Trust. They can trace pork in China or leafy greens here in the U.S. back to the source in literally seconds.
Seconds, compared to what, days before?
Days, exactly, which is critical if there's, say, an E. coli outbreak. You can pinpoint the problem fast, targeted recalls, less waste, more safety.
And builds consumer confidence, too, I bet, knowing where your food actually comes from.
Definitely. And it's not just food. Think about fake medicines, a huge danger. There's a network called MetaLedger using blockchain to fight that.
How effective is that?
Well, pilots they ran with big names like Merck and Walmart cut down the tracing time for drugs from weeks to seconds again. It helps meet regulations, too, like the DSCSA here in the U.S.
Wow. Okay, food, pharma. What else? Luxury goods. Seems different.
Yeah, but trust is key there, too. De Beers tracks diamonds, proving they're conflict-free.
The provenance aspect.
Right. And brands like Louis Vuitton, Prada, they're using it for digital certificates. So you know the handbag or watch is genuine. Breitling does it for watches with digital passports.
Okay, so it's verification.
Yeah.
We're about just moving stuff efficiently, logistics.
Absolutely. Maersk's TradeLens platform, UPS, they're using it to improve shipment tracking, cut down the mountain of paperwork.
Less paper, faster movement.
And you can even link it with IoT sensors. Imagine temperature sensors on a container of medicine reporting data directly onto the blockchain. Unchangeable proof it stayed cold.
And that leads to smart contracts.
You got it. Automating processes, like automatically releasing payment once sensors confirm delivery, or triggering a reorder when stock is low, even speeding up insurance claims.
Good. So the benefits seem clear: transparency, efficiency, security.
Less fraud, faster recalls, cost savings, yeah.
What's actually pushing companies to adopt it, though? It sounds complex.
Well, sometimes it's the big players, like Walmart, basically telling their suppliers they have to use it.
Market power.
Or a crisis forces the issue, like those food safety scares, and sometimes it's regulations, like we mentioned with pharmaceuticals.
Okay, let's pivot to healthcare. Different set of problems, right?
Right.
Fragmented records, major privacy concerns, AP pay, GDPR, data breaches.
Definitely. Healthcare data is incredibly sensitive and often stuck in silos. Different hospitals, clinics, they don't always talk to each other easily or securely.
So blockchain's promise here is
Secure, tamper-proof record keeping, for one, making it easier to share data when needed but safely, and potentially giving patients more direct control.
patient control. How would that work?
Imagine having your own private key to your health records. You decide who gets access, which doctor, which hospital, maybe for research. Projects like MedRec have explored this kind of patient-centric model.
That sounds like a fundamental shift. Giving individuals the keys to their own medical history? Any unexpected consequences there?
Well, it requires huge technical, regulatory, but also cultural shifts. How do you manage keys? What happens if you lose them? Who is ultimately responsible? It's complex, but the idea of patient empowerment is powerful.
And traceability applies here too, right? With medicine?
Absolutely. Just like in supply chains, verifying drug authenticity is vital. stopping counterfeits before they reach patients. Networks like MetaLedger are active here too. And again, faster, more targeted recalls if needed.
Peace of mind is a big part of that.
Yeah.
What about research? Clinical trials?
Huge potential there. An immutable ledger provides a verifiable audit trail for trial data. It could really boost confidence in research findings. Plus, managing patient consent could become more dynamic using smart contracts.
Interesting. So verifiable results, better consent management.
Exactly. And you see platforms emerging like Avenir Health, aiming to create secure highways for data sharing between different healthcare organizations. It's all about breaking down silos safely.
So improved security, privacy, maybe better data flow, potentially lower costs down the line.
That's the hope. More efficiency, greater trust in the data itself.
But as the report notes, it's not all smooth sailing. There are significant challenges across both supply chain and healthcare.
Oh, absolutely. The scalability trilemma is a big one, trying to balance speed, security, and decentralization. It's hard to maximize all three.
Right, you often have to trade one off against another.
And interoperability, getting different blockchains to talk to each other, and importantly, to connect with the existing IT systems companies already use. That's a major hurdle.
Plus, the rules are still catching up, aren't they?
Definitely. The regulatory landscape is, well, evolving. Jurisdiction issues, the legal standing of smart contracts, data privacy rules like GDPR and IPA, how do they apply to decentralized systems? It's murky.
And security isn't perfect either. I thought immutability was the key.
The ledger is immutable, mostly, but the systems around it aren't immune. You hear about potential 51% attacks on smaller blockchains, bugs in smart contract code, and the simple age-old problem of keeping your private keys safe.
Right. Human error or theft is still a factor.
And frankly, implementation is tough. It can be expensive, complex, there's a shortage of skilled developers, and sometimes it's just hard to prove a clear return on investment quickly.
So given those challenges, where is this heading? What's the future look like?
We'll likely see more integration. Blockchain combined with AI, with the Internet of Things, blockchain acting as the sort of trust layer for data coming from sensors or being analyzed by AI.
Makes sense. What else?
Probably more tokenization of real-world assets, maybe efforts towards greener, more energy-efficient blockchains, and definitely more focus on privacy technologies, and easier adoption through blockchain-as-a-service platforms.
And how does this fit into that whole Web3 idea we hear about?
It's pretty central. Web3 is largely about decentralization, user control over data, owning digital assets like NFTs, peer-to-peer interactions. Blockchain provides the underlying infrastructure for a lot of that.
What are the big analyst firms saying? Like Gartner?
They tend to emphasize focusing on clear business value, not just tech for tech's sake. They acknowledge it's maturing, maybe slower than the hype suggested, especially for those private, permissioned blockchains used by businesses. Caution is still advised. Focus on pragmatic use cases.
So wrapping up, blockchain clearly offers powerful tools, especially for trust and transparency in these really complex areas like supply chains and healthcare.
Yeah, the potential is there, but making it truly transformative means tackling those challenges: scalability, interoperability, regulation, cost, and really focusing on applications that deliver genuine, practical value.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What parts of your daily life where trust or transparency feels lacking could potentially benefit from this kind of technology? That's something to ponder. That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.